Welcome to episode 5 of the Smart Crypto Investing Podcast. This is your host, Chuck Rivers. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today and joining me. Before we get into today's interview, just want to say thank you so much, everybody, for listening in. I know we're only 5 shows in, but I really hope the content has been helpful. You can check out some of the past shows we have in iTunes as well. I think the second episode we talked about some of the terms and definitions that you'll hear in the cryptocurrency space, some important terms that when you start doing your studies. And last week we spoke with Kirill Ravenstrong, and we talked a little bit about the blockchain technology. And today, again, we're speaking with Stan Larimer. He is the CEO of Bitshares, and we talk a little bit about Bitshares and how Bitshares is slightly different, I would say, or I can say drastically different than some of the other companies out there, exchanges, and then also as far as from the coin perspective, how the coin differs from some of the other coins. So I really, really think you'll enjoy today's interview. It does get a bit technical, but we did try to keep it as foundational and fundamental as possible. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into today's interview. And Stan, welcome to Smart Crypto Investing. Thanks for coming on today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Awesome. So let's jump right into it, Stan. So tell us a little bit about your background and what it is that you do.
All right. Well, my background is 40 years in the aerospace industry doing unmanned air, ground, sea, and space vehicles. I retired in 2010. My son, Dan Larimer, who's the inventor of all of the technology we'll probably be talking about, called me out of retirement to run his company while he invented Bitshares and then went on to do Steemit and now working on EOS. So my job right now is to look after his firstborn Bitshares, which is what I do.
Awesome. Now, for anybody that's new to the cryptocurrency world, and it seems over the past month it's just hitting everywhere. Can you tell us a little bit about Bitshares? I know there's different exchanges, but so tell us a little bit about Bitshares and particularly what makes it, I guess, particularly different than, I would say, like a Bittrex or Coinbase.
Okay, well, Bitshares is one of the big 4 blockchains out there, along with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Steemit, 2 of which are Dan's products, and that's Bitshares and Steemit. And that particular product is running over half of the total transactions in the entire world today. So Bitshares is a smart coin factory and a decentralized exchange, whereas Bitcoin, the one everyone's heard about, is a single coin. So if you wanted to compare the two head to head, both of them could be thought of as companies. The Bitcoin company provides one service to keep track of who owns its coins, and Bitshares is a company that keeps track of hundreds of coins, all different types of smart coins of different types. And it's also got an exchange that will allow you to trade all those different coins and assets against each other.
Okay. So, and you probably hinted at it, when you gave your introduction, but what got you into cryptocurrency?
Well, it was just something I was asked to do as someone that Dan could trust to run his company. But I got totally hooked on it. I started in 2013, and have since sort of evolved into a bit of a advocate. I don't run the Bitshares company. That's an unmanned company, just like Bitcoin, and it's run by its owners who vote for people to do services like running nodes or maintaining the software and so on. But I have gotten into it because I passionately believe in decentralizing everything. I think I'm sort of like Thomas Jefferson, who always was in favor of pushing power away from centralization down to the states. Hamilton wanted to pull it all back to a centralized federal government type of thing. And so those forces have been going on for a long time, and I'm siding with Thomas Jefferson.
And so now you're the CEO of Cryptonomics, and that's is that like a blockchain development project, or is that accurate?
Yeah, Dan and I and a bunch of other people formed Cryptonomics after developing the first version of Bitshares. And so a group of developers working on sweat equity formed Cryptonomics to make the next version, which is what is the real-time blockchain we see today, used in so many different places. And so Cryptonomics was founded first and foremost to produce that. And then since that time, Cryptonomics has been in the process of spinning off other companies to do different things. We believe in decentralization even of ourselves. And so spun off Steemit, which is now run by Ned Scott and is a totally independent company. And we're just in the process of spinning off another one known as Hyperion, which is providing services to help lots of companies jump on the blockchain and learn how to use a real-time system, providing the services that would be hard for a company to learn how to do itself, and giving them best-in-class customer support.
Now, what's your take on ICOs? When I first got into cryptocurrency myself, I was really gung ho on ICOs and like, oh wow, there's opportunities. But then as I started doing more research and I started looking at some of these ICOs, I started to rethink it. So I just wanted to get your take, being that you're in the industry and your background. So what's your overall take on ICOs?
Well, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times, I guess is what I would say. It's a tremendous, wonderful opportunity when done right, and it's the bane of the industry if it's done wrong. The really good quality ICOs that are done by the book and kept legal and regulatory compliant are going to be wonderful things if we can avoid regulation to the point where they're just as hard to do as a normal stock offering or something. That's the big threat, is that regulators will get over-engaged in it, but it's clear we need some regulations because people are taking advantage of other people offering absolute garbage. And the offering of that garbage is going to have a very chilling effect on our ability to remain free of undue regulation. It's an excuse for overregulation. And so, I'm simultaneously advocating self-regulation of the industry with the txsrb.org. That's the token exchange self-regulating body. It's intended to work with the SEC, but regulating the industry just like the SEC was designed to regulate its industry. Mm-hmm. And I think that we'll have to do a lot of that. And I'm involved in a number of advising companies on how to do proper ICOs that meet the regulatory restrictions. I think we'll come out of it okay, but it's going to be an awfully chaotic 2018.
Yeah, I agree. So, what is like a piece of advice for people who are just getting into cryptocurrency, and people particularly who are looking at ICOs? What are some telltale signs that they should look out for when they're researching a particular project on whether or not they should invest in it?
Well, there's no substitute for doing due diligence. I mean, people who get involved in this tend to be, a lot of them just want to jump on and trade. They're inexperienced at trading. They're newly wealthy because maybe they got lucky on one coin, and now they want to invest in other things. That's fine, but there's just no substitute for studying who's behind the thing, understanding the people that are doing it, see what their track record is, read their white paper, and check to see that they have done the necessary diligence in terms of being regulatory compliant. Worst thing you could do is buy a non-compliant token that gets seized and the people who you funded thrown in jail for not having done it right.
Yeah.
So, you got to watch out for all that kind of stuff. It's even true with Bitcoin. I'd say most people have no clue why they're buying Bitcoin except that it's going up.
Yeah.
And, Bitcoin is nice. I really respect the guys that developed it, but it's the Model T. And, we've got Teslas these days. And if you're investing in a Model T, just because it's the biggest, most well-known thing, then you're just asking for a fall when Bitcoin starts settling into its natural place, which is a reserve currency and something that everything else is priced in, but not a medium of exchange. It's too slow for that. It's already clogged up to the point where it's got a huge backlog. You got to pay almost as much as it costs to wire money in a bank, and it's going to get more and more like that. So why are you investing in Bitcoin? Well, it's going to probably go up and down a lot between here. And if you're an experienced investor, there's reasons why you might want to invest in it. But if you haven't studied the difference between Bitcoin and Bitshares, for example, you're not an informed investor.
Yeah. Yeah, and just because, so my next question, I had to just put a disclaimer in there, and we have a disclaimer in the show notes, but for all our listeners, just know that this is not an investment advice. We're not making any recommendations. It's just for educational purposes. And so you're actually right, because the other day I transferred some Bitcoin from Coinbase over into Bittrex, and also transferred Litecoin over from Coinbase into Bittrex. And the fee that I was charged from transferring the Bitcoin to Bitshares was astronomical. I'm like, this is crazy. And then when I did it for Litecoin, not only was the fee a lot cheaper, it went through immediately.
Yeah, that particular network sits where it's not as heavily loaded.
Yeah.
And so, that's an advantage. But keep in mind, you could do that same transfer on Bitshares for 3 cents in 3 seconds. So once again, when we go talking to CEOs of different companies, and there's hundreds of them out there that are adopting a blockchain for their business processes, the first thing I ask them is how many transactions per second do you think you're going to do with your new service that you're offering, whatever it might be. They say, oh man, we got millions of customers. We'll probably be doing thousands of transactions per second. I said, do you realize that Bitcoin can maybe do 7 transactions per second shared by the whole world? Ethereum can maybe do 25 best case, and you yourself are planning thousands. And when they hear that, you see their face goes pale, and then they usually switch to a real-time chain like Bitshares.
Okay. And actually, it's funny. I heard of Bitshares prior to, speaking with you, and on the last episode we spoke with Kirill. But prior to that, I just didn't really hear about Bitshares. And then when I spoke to Kirill on the last episode, and now speaking with you, I may actually look into Bitshares, because my philosophy is I don't like having 4 or 5 different exchanges where the coins are scattered. Like my personal philosophy is just having at least 1 or 2 central locations. And it sounds like Bitshares is a step above some of the other exchanges.
Well, the big difference between a decentralized exchange and the typical exchange, which is centralized, is that with Bitshares, you keep your keys to your assets all locked up safely in your wallet. Whereas to use another exchange, you got to send them physical control of your coin, whether it's a Bitcoin or a Bitshares, whatever you send over to them. They've got your coins now. All you've got is an IOU from them that they will allow you to refund that back to your wallet when you're done trading. But the whole time you're trading, you're playing with house poker chips. Mm-hmm. And then when you want to cash out, you can send it back. Now, that's fine if it's going to be over there just for a short trade. But if you're leaving it parked on that central exchange, you're creating, along with everybody else that uses that exchange, a honeypot that hackers are going to be trying to get into, because that's where all the money is. They're not going to try to hack your personal computer. There's not enough money in it. But there is enough money in one of these big exchanges. And so that's why you hear about these exchanges getting hacked. And it's not that they're not trying to do good, but there's lots of ways to hack, talking to an exchange employee, penetrating through all kinds of sophisticated tricks in order to get at that honeypot. And of course, once the honeypot's gone, the exchange is insolvent, and your chances of seeing your money again are gone. So the big advantage with Bitshares is you can trade without letting go of your coins.
Oh, wow. Okay, so if people have coins on another exchange, are they transferable into Bitshares?
Yes. Now, there's 2 kinds of coins: native and external blockchains. Okay, so an example of an external would be Bitcoin. or Ethereum. They're on their own blockchain. And so if you are going to try to trade them, you will need to essentially trade a surrogate coin that's provided by a gateway. OpenLedger would be an example of a favorite or a famous one, openledger.info. They will do the same thing a centralized exchange does with those external coins. They'll take them and hold them for you and give you a poker chip type of trading token that you can then put on Bitshares along with all the other native tokens. The native tokens trade without counterparty risk, but the tokens that represent external chains, they still need to be cashed out through the person who put them on there for you, the company that did that. So in that way, you can trade anything on the Bitshares network, but to have the full advantages of a decentralized network, you would want to trade assets that are issued there natively, and a lot of ICOs are starting to do that because they want the high performance for their business application.
Where do you see cryptocurrency going into 2018? I asked that because I read an article this morning where a lot of banks, a lot of big brand banks are actually blocking or locking people's account who are purchasing cryptocurrency. It seems like there's a lot of fear in this space, especially from big banks. But going into 2018, what do you see happening with cryptocurrency, and particularly when it comes to the centralizing and regulation of purchases?
Well, I wrote an article just a few weeks ago called "The Great Bitcoin Train Wreck of 2018." Okay, now what's that all about? Well, there's several forces that are all happening. There's the instability of the U.S. dollar. People have been predicting its demise for a long time, but 2018 looks like a good time for a currency reset. It might not happen then, but that's one wobbling instability that will drive people out of the dollar and into safety. And when they can't get enough precious metals, they go into digital currencies, and the first one they've heard of is Bitcoin. So that's a force driving Bitcoin up. On the other hand, there are forces that will rock the boat. Certainly the governmental regulatory agencies around the world, not just in the U.S., but everywhere, are going to be gearing up to crack down on all the bad ICOs and people who are violating what that particular country perceives to be as their monetary policy. And every time they do a big takedown, and they'll probably do a takedown every month all year long, or maybe many takedowns, that will certainly cause Mt. Gox kind of panics that will, rock the boat in the industry. And then the big train wreck is every company out there that didn't do their homework technically when they were deciding what kind of coin to build their business on, and they pick the most popular one, like Bitcoin or Ethereum, are going to find out that their business doesn't run on them because those networks are totally clogged and bogged down. And therefore, all of those companies are going to come to a screeching halt and have to retool into some kind of a real-time blockchain like Bitshares. And we've already seen that trend. I've talked to, we're going to probably announce 5 or maybe even 7 this month that are switching over to Bitshares because they've encountered that very problem. They built on Ethereum and then found out it didn't work. There was an amusing incident, something called CryptoKitties, a little kind of a game that got to be popular on Ethereum. It brought the whole network to a total clog because it used up all the transaction bandwidth. You can't do other things. Yeah. People who are doing ICOs on Ethereum are finding, there's a backlog on people trying to buy their coin. So that's another force in 2018 that I think will come to a head. And that means it's a wonderful opportunity to both make and lose money. But once again, you can't just blindly go out and buy what everyone else is buying. You need to do your homework.
So one of the focuses of the show's thing is keeping things like my audience. We're very basic, like fundamentals. People who are just getting started, or people who are established but still looking to keep the fundamentals in place. So you mentioned this already, but just want to circle back. So Bitshares is the blockchain technology, but it's also a coin.
Yes. There's a base coin in Bitshares that is used to basically create some of the other more advanced products, smart coins that are stable in price, smart coins that appreciate at 5% annually. Um, uh, Interesting coins that are desperately needed out there because they don't have counterparty risk. Like Tether is a popular coin with about $1 billion worth in circulation, but they state explicitly that they don't guarantee to back it at all. So people are buying tethers to get stability with respect to the dollar, and they've been told specifically that it's not guaranteed to be redeemed. That's far worse than another company that might be backing it with gold and promising to give you a gold coin. There's still risk there with that particular company because if it goes out of business or gets shut down, you could lose your money. But at least it's there, it's registered, it's making public promises and telling you who is behind it. And so that's far better than that. But then you get to assets on the Bitshares network. Those are backed by honest robots that there's no centralized authority there. So Bitshares as a token is used to back coins that are stable, and you don't have any counterparty between you and that promise to redeem the coin for the backing Bitshares that are out there.
So as we start to wind down here a little bit, Stan, I want to talk. I had a couple of more questions. So last week when we spoke to Kira, we talked a little bit about the Billionaire Hero campaign, and I wanted to just get your perspective on that and actually just explain a little bit further what that actually is.
Oh yeah, that's very good. What we wanted to do was create a place where newbies, like you just talked about, could go and learn how to use digital currencies in a non-threatening, fun way, and yet one that was interesting inherently. So we created billionherocampaign.com. It's probably going to go online in its full mode. You can go there right now and sign up for the newsletter and get notified when the games start. But it's making a game out of learning how to use digital currencies. So it teaches you one little step at a time. You can earn kind of monopoly money called free rows that are good for voting rights for selecting which of 12 good causes, and anybody can register a good cause, is going to be awarded $1 billion prize at the end of the contest. The $1 billion prize is actually a prize that's worth $1 million right now. And so the whole nature of the game is, hey, Bitcoin has gone from 1 million to 1 billion in the past couple of years. Ethereum has done that. Lots of other coins have gone up by a factor of 10 or 1,000. Bitshares itself is up by a factor of 100 this year. So it's not unreasonable at all to imagine that this $1 million prize that we put out there could grow in a matter of a couple of years to be worth $1 billion. So while you're playing the game, you can also look at the different causes out there. It could be anything from building a water plant in Africa somewhere, or rebuilding a Caribbean island, or a whole bunch of interesting, big, heroic, audacious projects is what we call them. And so we're trying to use that to demonstrate to people two things. A, that even if you put $1 into Bitshares and then watch us have this campaign, when our $1 million grows to $1 billion, your $1 is going to grow to 1,000 because that's just the escalation in price. And we've got all kinds of businesses that are signing up, doing that. I can name 7 of them after we announce them this year, that are taking their revenue streams, a piece of the revenue streams, and using it to buy Bitshares with the same strategy of having that buying pressure cause the price of Bitshares to go up. And so unlike Bitcoin and Ethereum that grew randomly due to speculation, we're building an entire industry that is going to buy Bitshares and collectively raise the price. So that means that all their earnings will grow by a factor of 1,000. So it's a way to amplify their own business models. And because everybody is doing it, everybody reinforces everybody else's nest egg. And in the process drives up the $1 Billion Hero prize that we're going to give away. And so you can learn all about that at billionherocampaign.com.
Yeah, and we'll link to it in the show notes as well as the contact information for yourself as well, Stan. So one last question as far as the Billionaire Hero campaign, the game is concerned. Is it just online, or is there an app as well?
No, it's just online.
Okay.
The game itself is in development, and it will have lots of components, and it'll be growing. It'll never end in terms of until we give away the prize. In terms of adding features to it, it's intended to be a training tool where people can learn about this sort of thing. But right now, if you go there, you can hear more about it and then sign up for the newsletter that'll announce when the game begins.
All right. And last question, Stan. So what's one piece of advice for new investors, somebody just getting started in the cryptocurrency space?
Well, I would say my biggest piece of advice is do not be a lemming. Don't go buy something because everybody's buying it. I will tell you right now, the things they are buying are broken and oversold or overbought. And it's not a good idea to just walk in and say, well, what's going up today? Oh, look at what the herd's doing. I'm going to do some of that. Now, understand what you're buying. Do your homework. It's easy. You go to coinmarketcap.com and you can click on any of the assets, and that'll take you to a website or something describing that asset, and you can dig into the ones you find appealing and learn something about it. So I would do that. There's another really great website called blocktivity.info, BLOCKTIVITY. And that particular site shows you the busyness or the utility or the number of transactions that are going on different exchanges. And when you look there, you see the ones that are really being used as opposed to the ones that are just making promises.
Yeah, I'm actually, as you were saying, the website, I'm on here right now. And it looks like right now, number one is Ethereum.
Well, if you look at the column, there one shows the average moving average in the current past week, and there's another one that shows the record, and you'll see that Bitshares and Steemit hold the records for most transactions processed in a day. Yeah. And Ethereum is trying to catch up, but then you look at the important one, which is what I call the sweatometer over there towards the right of the right-hand column, and it will show the degree of loading on the networks. And you'll see that Bitcoin and Ethereum are nearly maxed out. A lot of times they have a big triangle on there showing that they have a backlog where they're not processing things. They're waiting to process it. And you'll notice the sweatometers for Bitshares and Steemit aren't even moving off zero. So,
oh wow, yeah.
When you do your evaluation, you'll notice that those four blockchains are all competing on a daily basis for being number one in utility, and at the same time, two of them are maxed out. They can't grow. All they can do is raise their prices to ration their bandwidth to the highest bidder, whereas Steemit and Bitshares are running cool and costing you pennies to use.
That's amazing.
Steemit is free.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy because you're right. And this is something that I had to learn when I first got started. Like I would make purchases on coins based off what was popular. You're right. And I admitted to it. And I was like, oh, well, Bitcoin is popular. Litecoin is popular. But now that I'm looking at what you just revealed to us, it's like, wow, Steemit and Bitshares are in the green. Like they're barely off the bottom. So that's really, truly amazing. So thank you. And I'll link to this in the show notes as well, people, so you guys can see what I'm looking at. You just opened up my eyes. It's amazing. So I appreciate that, Stan.
Yeah, no problem.
So where can people get a hold of you? Where can people find out more information about Bitshares and the Billionaire Hero campaign?
Well, billionherocampaign.com is the place where you can get a nice, easy, gamified on-ramp. If you want to just read some stuff, I would go to sovereignhero.com. And, of course, there's the bitshares.org website that you can go to and just look at the standard kind of information about a coin and all the features that are built into Bitshares.
Awesome. And I do have one final question before we sign off. Actually, two questions. So the first question is for Bitshares. Can people attach their bank account and purchase directly, or would they have to? Like, how does that piece work?
Bitshares is an unmanned company, so it has no contractual relationships with any bank. So we require other companies that provide that service and have the necessary licenses to do that step. So you can go through, for example, openledger.info is one of the longest running ones, but there are lots of others that will provide you that service where you can wire money to them and get back what you want. And in fact, you can do a two-stage hop, sort of like changing planes in Chicago, where all you have to do is buy Bitcoins anywhere you want to buy Bitcoins. And then a real good place to trade them into Bitshares is blocktrades.us. I use it a lot. And it's a super simple interface. You just dial up what you want to send them and dial up what you want them to send you back. And then you can send as many of one kind of coin to it, and you'll get back the other kind of coin into your own wallet without it staying on the exchange for more than a minute.
Awesome. Perfect. All right, cool. All right, so Stan, again, thanks so much for coming on and sharing with our audience. And I learned something, and I'm pretty sure our listeners have learned something as well. So thanks again for coming on. We look forward to potentially having you again in the future. Anytime.
Thank you.
And I really hope you enjoyed that interview with Stan Larimer from Bitshares.org. We got a bit technical for today's episode, but I really hope that you really took something away from it. I know I did. I want to thank you so much for being a faithful listener of the Smart Crypto Investing Podcast. It really means a lot. Be sure to leave us a review on iTunes as well, and we'll shortly be on iHeartRadio. So if you're not an iTunes person and you stream through iHeartRadio, you'll be able to catch the show on there. And also be sure to check us out on Facebook at Smart Crypto Investing. We do have a private Facebook group where we will be going a little more into detail as far as investing in cryptocurrency. So if you have any questions or if you want to be involved in the group, it's completely free. Send me an email at blackpodcastersnetwork@gmail.com, blackpodcastersnetwork@gmail.com. And we can talk and exchange and see if we'll be a good fit for you to join the group. So again, thanks so much for listening, and be sure to share this show, and we'll also be including all the links mentioned in this particular episode in the show notes, so that way you can just open up the show notes and click on the links and take you directly to the websites we have mentioned. So thanks again for listening in, and until next episode, bye for now.